And so here we have a way that medicine is making an intervention.
Hi, Sterling. Welcome to the next bite-sized session, which is looking particularly at Allergen Awareness Week, which is around the 22nd of April, starting the 22nd of April. And I'd be interested, I know you feel passionate about managing allergens and so on. What's your take on the three most important things that have happened over the last year or so with regards to allergen management?
Well, Richard, I think this is a really exciting time for allergen management, as we've seen three big shifts in the whole landscape, seismic shifts of the way that we'll be looking at allergen management for the future. And the first, I would say, is the FDF news that for the first time ever, we have a drug for dealing with allergens. We've had EpiPens, which have made a big contribution. And we try to control allergens through just management. Whereas now the FDA in America have approved a drug called Xolair. I hope I pronounced it correctly. There's lots of X's in it. And it's a microclonal antibody. And so for the first time ever, we have something you can inject into somebody who suffers from a condition. And in fact, what it does is it interferes with the IgE response that you get to a food allergy. And so here we have a way that medicine is making an intervention. Much the same way we've had with COVID, isn't it? COVID-19, where we've been saying how important good hygiene practice is. But really, what really saved lots of people's lives wasn't just the good hygiene practice. It was when we had vaccination. So that's the first one to me, Richard, is actually having a medicine, very expensive at the moment because it's very new, but I'm sure will come down in price, that will actually help people who are suffering from food allergens.
Okay. Have you got, what other ones have you got?
Well, I think, again, science is providing some of these solutions as ever. And we've got testing is really important for allergens. You know that there are PCB testing and ELISA testing, ways of finding out if an allergen is in food. It's quite expensive. You have to send it off to a lab. It takes a lot of turnaround time, by which time it's great if someone's had a reaction and you're telling them what the reaction was of the food, but it's almost after the event. Whereas now there's new types of microfluidic paper analysis, which is a new technique that's just been developed last year, which means that you can carry out these tests with your mobile phone and you can do them instantaneously. They're very cheap. They're very quick. So we're moving towards that position where, as a consumer, if I had a food allergen, I could, in a restaurant, I could literally scan my meal and find out if the allergen's present or not. Now, you have to be careful here because, if it's not an even mix within your meal, you could get a full sense of security. But if you're having a soup or something like that, again, it's just another tool for the consumer that has the condition, that it just gives them more information. So what I'm trying to say in both cases, it's not, hey, forget good allergen practice. It's about, here are two things that could really be a step change for the future in the armory that we have to fight this terrible condition.
I'm interested, Sterling, auto injection pens for adrenaline. Now, everybody gives a standard answer when, with regards to businesses. If somebody has an anaphylaxis and they have an EpiPen themselves, should staff administer that EpiPen? And everybody says yes, if they're trained. Now, the problem is the majority of people may not have been trained. And I've got one of my grandsons has got an allergen problem. And if he had an anaphylaxis, he carries an EpiPen. I would want a member of staff or somebody to inject him if that was obviously, if he was having an anaphylaxis. It's a life-threatening situation. And of course, best practice is to get people trained. But nowadays, there's so many people that are injecting for different medicines for different reasons. It's not rocket science. I mean, I've had to learn from reading about certain things and then do self-injection or inject my wife. in those situations, wouldn't you prefer a member of staff, if they weren't trained, to give that EpiPen dose?
I think it's a very difficult position to be in, and that is the decision of the food business operator, whether they think they're competent or they want to do it. It's the same issue that you have in schools as well, where some members of staff have refused to give the treatment because they don't feel they're trained or they don't feel it's part of their job. And we see the same thing about defibrillators, which around the country now, some people refuse to use them because even though they're almost intuitive what you do and the machine tells you what to do, some people just don't feel comfortable doing it. I think the important thing is you carry an EpiPen. And obviously, if you're a child, you should have a parent with you who knows how to use it. So, yeah, a very difficult one on EpiPens, but that's a great example of new science and technology of making a contribution. Without EpiPens, I wonder how many people would have died from food allergens.
Exactly.
Now, the third point, which is really important to me, is artificial intelligence. We've seen the impact it's starting to have on food safety. We're seeing the impact it's starting to have on food allergen management, because connected to the Internet of Things, now people have got a lot more information. And I think the biggest task for us is to enable people who suffer from the condition to make informed choices. And as I say, now you can download a lot of information about the food that you're actually eating, just using the code system. And it will tell you about the kind of risk of getting an allergen from certain foods. And you can program your own kind of needs into it. So AI, I think, will transform the information that consumers will be able to get to make that informed choice. So they're the big three for me, Richard. I think there've been some fantastic news on the injection. That is a complete game changer. I think there's fantastic news on detectability. It's now the consumers themselves that can carry out this analysis. So you're doing the analysis before you eat the food, not someone telling you what you ate. And at the last, I think, is AI, which will not just transform food safety, but I think it's got many, many opportunities for those people who suffer from food allergies.